Brett Hodge here, and today I am going to be talking about correlation. Now, when we're thinking about correlation, what we're thinking about is the connection, I guess, between two different variables. So I want to give you an example. So let's say you're studying university, school, or whatever, and we want to determine whether how hard you work has a relationship or has an impact on the grades that you get, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a questionnaire that's going to might ask you things about how many hours of work you do. It might ask you your impression of how hard you work, but basically we're going to give you a score of between 1 and 10. So we're going to give you a score between 1 and 10 based on how hard you work, right? So let's just say we're going to ask you the simple question, how hard did you work in this subject? Now, some of you might be really slack and just didn't work very hard, and you're like, yeah, look, I'll go with a 3. Didn't work particularly hard, but, 3 out of 10. I did a little bit of work. Others, couldn't help yourself. 10 out of 10, you got nothing better to do. You're locked down. You may as well study really hard. And then you get all of these different scores in between, right? So you might get a few 6s, a few 7s, a few 5s, blah, 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 right? So on the one hand, we've got how hard did you work? And so we've got a bunch of numbers. We might have 50 participants with a big spread of numbers ranging between 1 and 10 as to how hard you work. All right, so let's put that aside for a minute. Now, then what we want to know is we're going to have a look at the grades. And so same deal. We know that you're going to be between 1 and 100, or 0 and 100, I suppose, but no one gets a 0. We've got, we go through, we know that most students don't fail. We might have a couple here that fail, but generally we're going to have passes. We'll have a few different scores in here, right? So remembering that each person has given us a score on both grades and their hard working scale. Now, correlation is about saying, is there a connection between these two ideas? Okay, so are these two things connected? If a person works harder, do they get better grades? So effectively what we're going to do is we're going to look at those two together. And this is what correlation is. So if we turn this up this way, shrink it down a little bit, and we go, okay, so we've got 0 to 100. Unfortunately, it's the wrong way around, but that's okay. And we bring back our hard working scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look, and we're going to go, okay, so we've got all these different participants. So if we look at participant 1, now participant 1 only got 3 for effort. And then when we have a look over here, let's assume that this is participant 1, they got less than 50%, right? So then we do that for all of them. We go, oh, well, let's have a look at this person here. We go up, we draw a line up, and then we draw a line across, and we've got a mark here. And so we end up with a whole bunch of scores through here by connecting these points. Now, what we notice, which is obvious when it comes to grades and effort, is that the more effort you put in, the better grades you get, okay? Makes sense. If you put more effort in, you get better grades. However, what we also notice is that just because you put in more effort, so let's say we'll look at this 6. So these people here have effectively done the same amount of work, right? And we have a look here. We have a look, and this might be this person here and this person here, but they've gotten different grades, quite different grades, 60 versus 75, okay? So it's not as if you get a 6 out of 10 for your effort, you're definitely going to get a 75, okay? There's variance in there. And this is what the strength of the correlation is relating to, is how much variance there is in the score. Now, if it was the case that for every person who got an 8 out of 10 for effort, they would definitely get a 90 out of 100, then you would end up with far less variance grades. So you would pull out all of these outside ones, right? And then you would have a much stronger relationship, okay? And if we think about this, so we've got a line, what we refer to as the line of best fit. So the line that runs through here is the line of best fit. Now you can see here that if you've got a really strong relationship, so where basically if you do a 7, you're going to get an 80 out of 100, then you end up with a really, really narrow band around the line of best fit. Now, if we go back and put a couple of these extra crosses in, so let's say the relationship is not so strong, then we end up with a much broader band in the correlation table, okay? Now, the reason for this, if you think about effort and grades, is that we might have this person here, 7, who got a 7, but only got a fairly low grade. Now, there's a number of reasons that that might be the case. So they might be reporting that they put in heaps and heaps of effort, but in actual fact, they didn't really. Now, the other thing that you need to remember is there are different kinds of correlations, okay, different directions. What can happen is that you can have a negative relationship. So it might be the case, let's say that this is no longer effort, this is now, okay, how many times do you watch Netflix per day? All right. And so we go across, we do exactly the same process, and we go, well, this person, they hardly watch Netflix at all, so we'll give them a 1, and we get a variety of scores, and it spreads throughout, right? So then we go up and we go, okay, well, this person who got a 1, they got a 90% because they've got nothing better to do. They haven't found a good series on Netflix, and so they got a really good grade. But then as we go across, same thing, we've got this kind of relationship appears where when you look at it, it actually goes down. So the higher your grade is, the lower your Netflix score is, okay? So, and it's exactly the same. You can have a really strong relationship where all of the points are really, really close to the line, or alternatively, you can have a really, really weak relationship where the points are much further away from the line. There's still a relationship there, but it's not as strong. Now, finally, obviously, we don't always find a relationship at all. Okay, so sometimes what will happen is when we do a correlation analysis, when we look at this, we go, so let's say we wanted to know the how many muffins you eat in a month and the grade that you get. All right, so we're going with muffins. So let's say we're looking at how many muffins you eat and your grades, right? So when we have a look, we think, well, look, logically speaking, when you think about this, will muffins have an impact on grade? No, probably not. But when we do it, so let's say some researcher who's got nothing better to do with their time decides, yep, let's actually test this. So they go, okay, so we've got all of these, we've got different people, we've taken their grade, the number of muffins they eat in any given week, and we get all of these points, exactly the same as what we're doing before when we're going, each participant or item is represented by 2 scores. And then when we put a circle around it, we look at it and we go, oh my goodness, I don't think there's any relationship there. And then your line ends up going just straight through. So what that says is you can eat as many muffins as you like, and you're going to have, score based on something else. So the most important concepts about correlation are the direction. So is it going up? When one goes up, does the other go up? How closely to the line does that fit? Remembering that if it's really, really close to the line, then it means that this your bottom measure, or in our case, the measure of effort, seems to be having a fairly strong relationship, having a fairly strong impact on grades, right? But if they're further away from the line, then you would suggest that it's having less of an impact and there might be some other things that are influencing grades. Who would have thought? So I hope this overview of correlation is helpful. Remember that correlation sits under a huge amount of research, and it's really important to understand this at the gut level. Otherwise, when you're looking at research, you don't know what it's talking about. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to sharing some more videos with you. Thank you. Bye.